Recently, we set up this web page on the Jumping Frog of Calaveras County by Mark Twain. And notice that there's an image in there. The image floated to the left, so we used the float:\left command to get the image to float over there. And notice that it lines up with the text now. Also at the top, it lines up. We use margin-right and margin-bottom to keep the text from touching the image. And of course, we use the colors, CSS color commands, to change the colors of each of the items. So today what we want to do is look at that code. We're going to the top right corner where we see the 3 dots in a row, the ellipses in other words, and we click on that, open up the additional tools, and we look at the code, and we see under IMG a squiggly line. Roll over it, we see images must have alternate text. What's this about? We're going to the next page and we see that we added alt equals frog. So when a blind person or a person with a slow internet connection looks at this page and can't see the images, they see the word frog. It's very nice. Next thing, we look at HTML at the top and we see it also has a squiggly line underneath. It says elements must have a lang attribute. Lang is an abbreviation for language. And so we go to the next page and we see for that code, lang equals quotes EN for English. On the internet, you can find a list of the languages and their abbreviations for the codes. So that's enough. It helps you with the processing of the code to know that this is English language. Now we come down and we're going to look through this code and we see under image, float left, correct, but we've commented out the margin right and margin bottom. Instead, we use this single command, margin, with the 4 parameters, which is for the top, right, bottom, and left. Think of following the clock. It's 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and that's easy to remember. And we say 0 REM, meaning the letter M is that amount of separation. 0 just means 0, so we could have just left it as a 0. And now we come down below, and what I want to do is add the photographer's name. So I'm using the figure command. And now the figure command is a container which contains any chart, image, or any other graphical item that you have. Here, of course, it's image. And you'll notice on the left there that it highlights that figure and it shows the image in blue and the margin right and margin bottom in tan. And I added the fig caption. Notice the fig caption is off to the right when it should be at the bottom. And the image no longer lines up with the left. What a mess. We come down to the bottom right side and you'll notice a square here. This is the box model. So if we go in the center, you'll see the image, which is the contents here, or the title, and then it becomes the padding, which is between the image and the box or border. And so of course we have nothing, so it's a dash. Border, again, we have nothing because that's very old-fashioned, put borders around everything. And then we have the margin, which is outside of that and prevents items from touching each other. And notice that the numbers are all messed up. What is going on? So we go to the CSS up above and we notice I haven't done it yet. We go to the next page and I'll see the CSS for the figure and it says the width is 30%. So that image is now shrunken to being only 30% of the available space. Notice on the left there's like 8 pixels that are blank. Same thing on the right. This comes from the CSS default commands from the web page, and we just generally leave that. So we don't have control of the entire page, but that shrunken center. And I take 30% of that for the image, which is nice. So for the figure, I mean. And I'm floating it to the left. Border style is none. It's a required statement, and then the margin and the paddings will take effect. Without the border style none, nothing works. So we're doing that. Next we come up and we see image. Now look at this. I say float left. It's really not necessary because it's pinned straight down, but the width is 100%. That's not 100% of the entire page. It's 100% of the figures area, and the figure was 30% of that shrunken area. So we keep getting, this is 100% of the shrunken area for the figure. And then we, of course, have the margin bottom and so forth. Now let's come down here, and we want to change the photographer's name. I want it to be centered. I want it to be gray, italic, and bold. How do I achieve all this? I'm using CSS for figcaption. I'm saying text align is centered, font size is smaller. I could have used point sizes, which is tightly associated with fonts, but smaller is sufficient and it's easier to understand. Font weight is bold, meaning I'm using a bold font so that the lines are thicker slightly. And then the font style is italic, means it's slightly slanted or italic. And then the color is gray. And so we have something that looks quite a bit better.